In this part of the lesson, we're going to be working with converting a standard number into a scientific notation. So there's a couple steps. First of all, the two key things that you have to understand is, first of all, are we going to have a positive exponent or a negative exponent? Well, it's kind of the reversal of what you guys have previously worked with. In this case, if our number is greater than 10, bigger than 10, you're going to have a positive exponent. So I think in terms of like a bank account. If I have more than $10, that's a positive thing. If it's less than $1, that's a negative thing. It's going to be hard to get through for the rest of the month if I have less than $1. So we're going to go ahead and use those two things to help us identify whether we're going to have a positive or negative exponent. So we're going to move our decimal so that there's only one non-zero number to the left of that decimal. So I say in front of the decimal. Then we're going to count the number of places that we moved, and that's going to be the exponent number that we're going to use. Then we're going to use this concept. If it was greater than 10 originally, the number greater than 10, then we're going to go ahead and make it a positive exponent. And if it was originally less than 1, we're going to make it a negative exponent. So let's go ahead and practice a couple of these. Okay, so first question. Is that number greater than 10? Yes, that's a positive thing. So we know we're going to have a positive exponent. I like to identify whether it's positive or negative first. Okay, so right now, no decimals shown, which means it's sitting at the very back. We're now going to move our decimal place to this position here so that we only have one number in front of it. So I'm going to count how many places are in between my two decimals. That's how many places I moved. I can show with the bumps, but it's going to give us, we're still going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers between, or I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I like the two decimal places and then counting between them. So here's what my new number looks like. 1.203. Now I have to include this 0 because it is between two non-zero numbers. I can now stop writing because the rest of them are all zeros. Then I'm going to write times 10. We said it was a positive, and there were 9 places between our two decimals, so our exponent's a 9. So 1.203 times 10 to the 9th power, okay? So first of all, identify whether your exponent's going to be positive or negative. That's when we look at it and say, it was greater than 10, that's a good thing. It's less than 1, that's a bad thing. And then we're going to move our decimal, okay? Okay, so we need to have one non-zero number to the left of the decimal. So non-zero number is 7. So I'm going to put my decimal right there. See how it's to the left? Okay, so here's my original. And here's my new. Okay, so 0.007 is less than 1. That's a negative thing. So I'm going to use a negative exponent. So it's going to become 7 times 10. Since there's no numbers behind that, I could write 7.0, or I can just write it as 7. And then we said it was going to be a negative exponent because it was less than 1. And there's 1, 2, 3 places between my old and my new decimal, so it's -3. Final answer. Okay, so we're working the opposite of what we did in our previous section. Okay. Greater than 10, yes, so it's a positive exponent. Old decimal's not shown, means it's here. New decimal, I only want one number that's not a 0 to the left of it, so I'm going to move it to here. One number in front or to the left. So it becomes 5.4. Now I don't have to write these zeros. Okay, if it was a 0 between two non-zero numbers, like it was in the very first one, we have to include that 0. Otherwise, we don't have to put those extra zeros. That's the purpose of scientific notation, it's to save time. Okay, how many numbers were between my old and my new? 3, 6. So times 10 to the +6. All right, let's do one more together. Okay, so I want one number that's not a 0 to the left, right there. See how I have one number that's not a 0? So I have 1.05. Now this originally was less than 1, so it's a negative exponent. So it's going to be times 10 to the something of a negative. Okay, old, new, how many places? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a -5 exponent. 1.05 times 10 to the -5. Okay, so I'm going to slide a couple out. I want you guys to pause your video, Try it out. Key thing to remember, greater than 10, that's positive bank account. Less than 1, that's a negative. Okay? So go ahead, pause your video and try these two out, then start it back up to check yourself. Okay, so you should have ended up with 1.04 times 10 to the 8 and 1.34 times 10 to the negative 4.